This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. I'm your host, Darren McKee, and with me, as usual, are Adam Gardner.
What's up, Cuboids?
Christina Roach.
Hey, everyone.
And producer Pat. Hi, everyone.
He'll be back shortly.
We have a great show for you today. Adam is going to explore the age-old question, how much is a buttload?
That's right.
And I'm going to look into, if advanced AI is unsafe, why do people keep making it? Why don't people quit? Mm-hmm. But first, Cristina, is it really true that no two sets of fingerprints are alike?
Well, I've said it before on the show, I enjoy a good true crime podcast or documentary. And in the majority of cases before the advancement of DNA profiling, fingerprints were a major player in forensics. I'm certain that most of you who watch police or legal TV dramas like CSI have heard the words, no two fingerprints are alike. You guys have heard that, right?
Yes, but maybe not from there, but just, yes. It's in the culture.
Yeah, it's like snowflakes, which is questionable.
Yeah.
It's a different segment.
Now, fingerprints have been used for identification purposes for centuries, and it is commonly believed that each person possesses a completely unique set of ridge patterns on their fingers. This concept has been widely accepted, and even forensic experts have traditionally relied on fingerprint evidence to solve countless crimes. So I'm going to dig into this assumption and check the facts as we do around here. Okay, quick disclaimer. This was a challenge to research and piece together. I tried to definitively identify who is the first person to posit that no two fingerprints are alike, but it's complicated. In the popular YouTube series Adam Ruins Everything, not you, Adam. Adam
no relation.
Conover, he covers fingerprinting and he brings up Sir Francis Galton. More on him later, but fun facts. He was Darwin's younger cousin, and he also founded eugenics, amongst other questionable things.
Yes,
not the
and
best.
he did some stats.
Yes. Now, thankfully, the wiki on fingerprints does a good job of summarizing the various players and the evolution of fingerprinting in forensics, along with my side research. So buckle in, checkers. We are embarking on a history lesson and me butchering several people's names in the process.
Darwin.
I'm going to
Dust off your fingerprint dust and get ready.
Chairless Darwin.
Chuck D.
European academics began studying fingerprints in the late 16th century, but it wasn't until the mid-17th century that meaningful findings emerged. In 1686, Marcello Malpighi, a professor at the University of Bologna, is that how you pronounce Bologna, Italy? It's not Bologna, like Bologna. It's not like that, right?
In Italian, you pronounce every letter.
Yeah.
So did you pronounce every letter?
Bologna, yes.
All right.
In 1686, Marcello Malpighi, a professor at the University of Bologna, identified distinct patterns in fingerprints. In 1788, Johann Christoph Andreas Mayer, a German anatomist, became the first European to assert the uniqueness of fingerprints, claiming, quote, the arrangement of skin ridges is never duplicated in two persons. Scottish physician Henry Folds, in 1880, further supported this notion. This is actually a really interesting story. While serving as a missionary in Japan in the 1870s, he noticed that there were ancient fingerprints on pottery dating back 2,000 years, and they were still visible. So he decided to conduct a fun experiment with his medical colleagues. He inked their fingers and discovered that each person's fingerprints appeared to be unique. He even had a few students, he did it too, scrape off their fingertip ridges only to witness them regenerate in the same exact pattern.
Oh, I always wondered if you could just like burn off your fingerprints to...
I didn't get
away
into
from
that. I saw
crime,
something
but-
come up, but I was so exhausted at that point for researching
So that could be a future
fingerprints.
segment. I'm assuming you can if you go deep.
If you go deep enough, yeah, interesting. But yeah,
You just
because
have
that would
scar
cause
tissue.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
a third-degree burn on my arm, and I'd imagine that if you, that's actually interesting. Maybe I'll do a little follow-up next show.
Good for crime if you want to do crime.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do crime, but, if you're gonna.
Instead of wearing gloves. Yeah.
Yes. In 1880, Folds wrote a letter to the journal Nature proposing that law enforcement could use fingerprints to establish personal identity. He even presented this to the Metropolitan Police in London in 1886, but they rebuffed it at the time.
Huh. They would rather, use divination and
yeah, maybe. Psychics.
Yeah.
Until the early 1890s, police in the US and Europe struggled to reliably identify criminals and track their records. Then in 1892, Francis Galton published a detailed statistical model of fingerprint analysis and identification in his book, Fingerprints, appropriately named, stating that the chances of a false positive were approximately 1 in 64 billion.
So we're at 8, so we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I would really like to see that statistical model, but anyways, I didn't dig into that. That same year, Juan Vucetich, an Argentine chief police officer actually, developed the first method of recording fingerprints. In a murder case in 1892, a bloody thumb mark found on a door matched the prints of one Francisca Rojas, leading to her confession. This marked the first known murder case solved using fingerprint analysis.
Interesting.
Okay, so fingerprints may have been useful in theory. But proponents realized that their usefulness would only be achieved by developing a method to effectively categorize prints and quickly match them to suspects. In 1897, a fingerprint bureau was established in Kolkata, following the approval of a committee report recommending the use of fingerprints for criminal record classification. Employees Azizul Haq and Ham Chandra Bose played a key role in developing the Henry system of fingerprint classification, which was named after their supervisor, Sir Edward Richard Henry. Now, prints were separated into subgroups. You've probably heard these terms before. This was based on their pattern types, such as loops, patterns that curved back upon themselves, whorls, patterns tending to be circular, and arches, patterns which form neither loops or circles. Here's a wiki definition. The Henry classification system allows for logical categorization of 10 print fingerprint records into primary groupings based on fingerprint pattern types. This system reduces the effort necessary to search large numbers of fingerprint records by classifying fingerprint records according to gross physiological characteristics. Subsequent searches, manual or automated, utilizing granular characteristics such as minutia, are greatly simplified. The Henry classification system is a method to classify fingerprints and exclude potential candidates. This system should never be used for individualization. That's an important last sentence.
Oh.
Now, quick side note, the classification methods used in modern day, which are called AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System, until the 90s were actually built upon this. Automated fingerprint identification used computer technology to compare fingerprints with a database containing both identified and unidentified prints within that identification system. The Henry system works so well that the Popo could find a match in 5 minutes, much faster than the hour plus it took them to try and identify someone using the Bertillon body measuring system, which was used at the time. I'd never heard of that before. It's literally what it sounds like. They use special instruments to measure a criminal or suspect's various body parts, their ear, their fingertip, all that stuff.
So they would need to have measured them before.
Well, I was thinking that, yes, you'd have to have this huge database.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
God.
In 1901, a French scientist named Paul-Jean Coulier devised a technique using iodine fuming to transfer hidden fingerprints from surfaces onto paper. This breakthrough enabled London Scotland Yard to begin fingerprinting individuals and using them to identify criminals. Following suit, U.S. police departments swiftly adopted the same method, making fingerprint identification a standard practice. I could go on with the history, but that's pretty much like what we kind of need to know. And it's all super interesting, except for one wee tiny thing. There is absolutely no scientific proof that fingerprints are unique.
Oh.
No.
I know. Are you shocked?
Only slightly.
Can we estimate the likelihood of a duplicate fingerprint?
That's a good question. Well, let me get into what a couple of cases where this all went really wrong. Some of you may remember this as it was all over the news. Brendan Mayfield was arrested and held by the FBI for the Madrid train bombings after several world fingerprint experts asserted that his print was a perfect match for a print found on the detonation device at the scene.
Did
Mayfield,
the computer agree with that, though?
well, Mayfield was in fact an attorney from Oregon who never even set foot in Spain. What an alibi. Simon Kohler, professor of criminology at the University of California, Irvine, and the author of Suspect Identities, A History of Fingerprinting, tells Smithsonian Mag the real problem is that fingerprinting experts have never agreed on, quote, a way of measuring the rarity of an arrangement of friction ridge features in the human population. That sounds like a problem to me. I don't know about
It's
you
like, sorry,
guys.
bro, you got a really basic fingerprint. And it's just like, yeah.
Well, for
don't
instance,
get credit.
they cite, like, how many points of similarity should two prints have before analyst declares they're the same? 8, 10, like how many? And the standards actually differ wildly depending on what city you're being tried in. And not to mention, police often lift incomplete prints from crime scenes. They don't have this perfect print like you would if you inked someone in, at a police station.
We've all seen The Dark Knight where he takes the fragmented bullet and reconstructs it to get a fingerprint.
As of 2019, when the Smithsonian article was published, Cole notes at least 23 people in the U.S. have been wrongly connected to a crime scene because of the prints. In a particularly egregious 1985 case, Bruce Basden was arrested for murder in North Carolina. He spent 13 months in jail before the fingerprint analyst realized that he made a mistake. Now, unfortunately, reliance on fingerprint analysis is still rampant in modern courts. In January 2002, Judge Louis Pollack made a noteworthy ruling regarding the admissibility of fingerprints. Initially, he declared fingerprint identification as unreliable scientific evidence, raising many an eyebrow as fingerprints had been considered the gold standard of forensic science in U.S. courtrooms for nearly a century. However, Pollack later reversed his decision, stating that despite certain flaws, the opinions of fingerprint experts should still be admissible for some reason. And many other judges have upheld the admissibility of fingerprint evidence since. But Judge LP's initial opinion was actually more accurate. He found that fingerprint identification techniques lacked proper scientific testing, and they didn't fully meet the requirements outlined by the Daubert test, which evaluates the validity and reliability of expert evidence. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, there has been a lack of comprehensive empirical scrutiny to verify or test the key claims made by fingerprint examiners, despite their longstanding use in law enforcement.
Interesting.
Now, here's an excerpt from Issues in Science and Technology that nicely summarizes things. Fingerprint examiners lack objective standards for evaluating whether two prints match. There is simply no uniform approach to deciding what counts as a sufficient basis for making an identification. Some fingerprint examiners use a point counting method that entails counting the number of similar ridge characteristics on the prints, but there's no fixed requirement about how many points of similarity are needed. 6 points? 9? 12? Local practices vary and no established minimum or norm exists. Others reject point counting for a more holistic approach. Either way, there is no generally agreed on standard for determining precisely when to declare a match. Although finger experts insist that a qualified expert can infallibly know when two fingerprints match, there is in fact no carefully articulated protocol for ensuring that different experts reach the same conclusion. Oh, that's so beautiful, that paragraph. It's so well summarized.
Yes.
Now,
Devastating.
yeah. Now, there are other reasons to consider that I've long run out of time to dig into, but I have to touch upon the immense diversity within the human population. With 8 billion-ish people on the planet, it seems highly improbable that no two individuals share even a single fingerprint pattern, right? The sheer statistical unlikelihood of this raises doubts about its accuracy. And from an evolutionary perspective, one, aka, Darren, might question why fingerprints would be truly unique. Isn't it fair to assume that fingerprints similar to other physical characteristics display variations within specific patterns instead of complete uniqueness? I don't know, Darren, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, much like the snowflake thing we mentioned at the beginning, which I think I did, 10, 12 years ago on the show.
Maybe you need to do it again this winter.
Well, yeah, it usually depends on the level of analysis, right? Because at a certain, very detailed molecular structure, you could imagine there'll be differences. So similarly with fingerprints, if you had enough, I don't know, of a magnifying glass, so to speak, maybe that's the case. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I can see arguments on either side.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, 8 billion people, how many worlds and, this could be done? I was mainly thinking maybe AI could sort of churn through some of this, have some sort of standard, have some sort of key features that seem most representative, and then it would be probabilistic though. Like, oh, okay, the 70% likelihood these are the same.
Oh, it always comes back to AI with Darren,
That's
isn't it?
kind of what they do.
Yeah.
Well, but she's saying there's no standard. So at least with AI, there'd be a standard.
Right. Yeah. Okay. In conclusion, fingerprint analysis can be very helpful alongside other evidence in honing in on a suspect, but it isn't foolproof science. The process relies on human interpretation, which can introduce subjectivity and errors. And there really is no compelling evidence to support the widely held belief that no two fingerprints are the same.
So you're saying if it was just fingerprints, it may not be enough, but if there was a buttload of evidence, there might be, Adam? Is that correct?
That's right.
What is this term? Does it actually mean anything?
Words are all made up. Nothing means anything.
Half that statement is true.
They're all made up. What's your horoscope? Yeah, that was a good meme. Okay. How much is a buttload or a butt ton? This is a silly question, right? It depends on the butt. And yet. So recently, Darren sent me this meme.
I'm at fault. I admit it.
Yeah, it's a video or something. I can't remember exactly. But basically, it said that buttload is an actual unit of measurement. It doesn't have anything to do with what I commonly think of as a butt. That being a shortened version of the word buttocks, meaning someone's bum,
Full disclosure, I've used in my life this expression before many times, a buttload of something, and never actually connected it with anything to do with a physical butt.
I think it was the term buttload, might have been a different term. I think I used the term buttloads to a U.S. customs agent, and he didn't know he'd never heard the term, and I was like, is this a Canadian thing, or does this guy not know what's going on, or whatever? It was...
Sir, are you transporting drugs? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I mean, is it that different than a metric ton or something like that, right?
Exactly. To me, that's how I use the term. So I always thought a buttload was the weight of a butt, maybe the weight of a load of butts, right? A big mountain of butts.
Darren, do you remember when you talked about things you regret and saying them publicly?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So I'm thinking like a nondescript, intentionally vulgar term. It denotes a lot of a thing, not meant to be specific, silly, whatever. I was wrong. That is not it at all. So, what's a butt if it's not the thing that is between you and your chair? A butt is 2 hogsheads.
Oh.
Yeah. That is the equivalent of 108 gallons or 491 liters. Thanks for listening. Okay. That doesn't explain anything. What does that mean? So, butt can mean one of 2 things. Depending on what that thing is, it can change the meaning of buttload. It can mean a large wooden cask or a 2-wheeled cart. So in either of these cases, you can have the load of a cask or the load of a cart, which would roughly approximate a certain weight or volume of a thing. So when we talk about a buttload as the capacity of a heavy cart, then it's 6 seams, which is, of course, 48 bushels, or 384 gallons, okay? This is why we use the metric system, right? So we're not doing this stuff, this weird stuff. But if we're talking about a cask, then it's a different kind of buttload that is basically what would fill that cask. I could not find a specific measurement for the size of a cask or what that buttload would be, but you can
use your imagination.
Imagine what that is, yeah. It's a buttload, come on. Now, it can also be someone that is messing up and misremembering or misrepeating the term boat load, which is a load that a boat can carry. How much cargo a boat can carry, the number of passengers that a passenger boat can carry, for example. That may not be specific, but there may be an agreement of like what is your like sort of standard or your limited amount that this boat can carry.
But a decent sized boat can carry several buttloads, right?
I would guess.
Are you suggesting it would be a boatload of buttloads?
Yes,
Like,
it's a boat buttload. Is
a
what I'm
lot
saying.
of hogsheads. So all this being said, there is also the common, simply vulgar or slang version of the term that really does mean buttocks, makes reference to a large amount of a thing. One should not confuse buttload with assload. That specifies the amount which can be carried by an ass, which is another word for donkey.
Aw.
Though donkey and ass refer to the same species, donkey is usually a reference to a domesticated animal, while ass is a wild animal.
Oh, I didn't
so
know
why
that.
why would you even be loading a wild donkey and not, the domesticated variety? I don't know.
I've learned two things from this segment.
I'm all about teaching today, knowledge, and not just silliness. That's it. Similar to buttload is butt ton, but we can't really say this is a specific antiquated term because it has the word ton in it. So there isn't a different type of ton that is based on a butt. There are actually different types of tons. You can have like a short ton, a long ton, a metric ton, but butt ton or ton are not their own kind of thing. Pat will beep that out. You beep that out if you want.
It's the explicit rating for this show.
And they don't seem to refer to a specific ton. It's just a thing people say when they want to be vulgar and talk about a lot of a thing, just a large amount of a thing. A few alternatives are just swear words not tied to anything. Load, ton, load, ton.
What is this?
These are all terms
just
that
fun
don't
if
have a
you beep
specific
everything.
value. These are all terms that don't have a specific value associated with them. They're just used in casual conversation to mean a large amount of a thing. So, buttload. It's actually a real unit of measure. Who knew? But whether or not the term used today is derived from that or simply just independently thought of by people who like to swear, it's kind of hard to prove. But it seems fair to say that most of the people who say buttload in 2023 aren't thinking of the size of a cask or a two-wheeled cart or hogsheads or anything like that. They're talking about a person's butt, just vaguely referring to a lot of a thing.
Thank you, Adam.
Well, thanks a shit ton for that.
And you can reach Adam at info@trcpodcast.com.
We got a butt ton of email there.
I don't think people, as you said, they're not even referencing butt. Like it just means a lot, as you said.
Yeah.
So I think the term, as you said, they're not thinking of the origin for sure,
Yeah.
but they're not even thinking of what the word currently stands for. For them, it just means a lot.
I think so, yes.
Thank you, Adam, for your voluminous, cheeky research. And now I'm going to talk to you about why don't AI researchers quit if they're so concerned about AI safety. As I covered on the last show, many AI researchers signed on to a statement that said, quote, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war.
Yeah.
A reasonable question to ask is, if these researchers and leaders in the AI movement are so concerned about AI causing harm, why do they continue to work on it? Why keep building the very thing that might harm humanity? I thought it was important to address this, so this is a short segment. We'll cover this today. As far as I know, there is no survey that asks AI researchers exactly why they work on what they're doing, and also I'm not sure of the reliability of the answers if there was such a survey. I would also want the survey to be very recent, given how much has changed in just the past couple of months, so we're left to speculate for the moment. Happily, Daniel Eth wrote a piece on Medium that provides a great overview of this issue, titled, Given Extinction Worries, Why Don't AI Researchers Quit? Well, several reasons, and this is linked to in our show notes at trcpodcast.com.
Great website.
His piece is informed by actual conversations he's had with people in the AI community versus me reading about his conversations with people in the AI community. So the following segment draws heavily on his piece, and it's largely me putting my own spin on things here and there. Before I begin, I want to stress that I'm not, like neither Daniel did, evaluating these reasons. They're simply some of the reasons why AI researchers don't quit or may not quit.
So the reasons they stated.
Well, or guessing what they might be. So
Okay.
some of it's based on conversations. Otherwise, it's trying to infer or guess what a logical landscape of plausible reasons. That means that some other potential reasons may not be covered. Second, to keep in mind, very rarely do people only have one reason for something, doing something or not doing something.
Yeah.
Most of us have a mix of reasons for doing something or not doing something, and even contradictory reasons sometimes. We feel conflicted. Third, these reasons are never about one particular AI researcher. Now, Daniel lists about 7 reasons, and he acknowledges he left some out, which is fine, but one seemed really important to me, so I wanted to mention it first. But I also wanted to keep his numbering the same as the one I'm talking about, so I'm going to call the one I'm talking about reason 0. Okay? Reason 0. Money, status, power. AI researchers are human, and even the best intentioned humans can be influenced by money, status, and power. Now, Daniel does mention this briefly at the end, but if you are a key researcher, you can get paid a lot of money. Also, I know these aren't quite the same type of thing, but I'm lumping them together for ease. I'll say, as I said, if you're on the cutting edge, you might be making millions of dollars a year, and some starter salaries could be close to $500,000.
Wow.
It's also very alluring to be at a place that may change the course of history. Even though it's dangerous, or perhaps because it's dangerous, it's cool to many to build very advanced AI systems. To just be there could be very appealing to some types of people, so we shouldn't discount the obvious. Money, status, and power may be reasons AI researchers don't quit. Reason number 1. Their specific research isn't actually risky. AI means many different things. Are you working on image generators, or chess playing, or self-driving cars?
Yeah.
None of these are obviously leading to risks of powerful AI systems that have general abilities, your AGI, artificial general intelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. Further, some people are working on the AI safety side of things compared to just capabilities research, but there's many fewer of those. For example, those trying to explore how AI systems work and why they do what they do, often called mechanistic interpretability research, are more likely to be decreasing than increasing the risk of AI systems causing harm. That said, many innovations can be used for good or bad, so even this reason may not hold up all that well over time.
Yeah, you kind of say what they're working on may not be explicitly dangerous, but any small part of that whole can potentially be dangerous as long as it's contributing to a general
Yes.
better AI system. But I imagine most people, they would think of themselves more of as a drop in the bucket of something dangerous than like a Miles Dyson type who's really like integral to something terrible.
Miles Dyson, Adam Terminator references. Yes, you're right. And so there are like levels, we'll say, of direct accountability in some sense.
Yeah.
If you're trying to advance AI capabilities and that's your overt work, that's one thing. If you're working on a side project, which is not really about that, but happens to do that, and then you could go way out. Well, all of us who are using these systems and giving feedback to GPT-4, you are kind of helping train the thing. So
Yes.
we're all involved in this. Reason number 2. Belief that artificial general intelligence, AGI, is inevitable and more likely to go better if you personally are involved.
Yeah.
So Daniel starts of this reason by providing some context in that many AI researchers are techno-determinists who believe technological progress is inevitable. So AGI will be created eventually, regardless of whether it should or shouldn't be. So to keep that in mind. Further, many believe that there is an unstoppable race to develop AGI first. If you believe it's going to happen anyway, perhaps you can help in some way. So he describes 2 common reasons for researchers thinking this. First, voicing concerns about risk might make their AI lab or field a little bit safer. Second, if one works at an AI lab that is more ethical or safety oriented, that lab may be more likely to develop AGI first, which could decrease overall risk of harm. These are not knockdown things, but it could be like, okay, if I think this is going to happen anyway, can I be involved to then steer it a little bit in the right direction of better safety?
Does it happening later in any way decrease the risk, right? It's not clear.
Well, a lot of people think it does. This is more time to just think and do all the other things. But,
Yeah.
it's not definitive, right? Reason number 3. Thinking AGI is far enough away that it makes sense to keep working on AI for now. There's a wide range of opinions among AI researchers about when AI systems will advance to the point where they pose a larger risk. For those researchers with longer timelines, it makes little sense to quit now if something is many decades away. Pretty straightforward. If you think this is after 2050, you're like, I can work for another 5 years, at least. Reason number 4, commitment to science for science's sake. This reason is just the desire to advance scientific progress.
Yeah.
Daniel quotes Robert Oppenheimer's line, quote, "When you see something that is technically sweet, you go ahead and do it, and you argue about what to do about it only after you've had your technical success. That's the way it was with the atomic bomb," end quote. Nothing, no blowback from that. Various AI researchers, including Geoffrey Hinton, have said similar things. Some also enjoy the intellectual challenge, which is almost a separate reason, but I'm mentioning it here. Reason number 5.
The intellectual challenge of creating something that will dwarf your intellect.
Yes. Every parent's dream.
Yeah.
Reason number 5. Belief that the benefits of AGI would outweigh even the risk of extinction.
Yeah.
So here, many AI technologists and researchers think AGI will be immensely powerful, operating at speeds far faster than humans or even groups of humans. As such, scientific progress that may take humans hundreds of years could perhaps take an advanced AI just 1 or 2 calendar years. With that, many diseases might be cured, greater insights into human happiness and well-being might happen, and who knows what other benefits. Okay, but is all that worth extinction? Well, what if advanced AI systems could find a cure for aging? What if through nanotech or biological interventions, for example, we could enable humans to live much, much longer, like hundreds or even many hundreds of years? This makes advanced AI very appealing to some.
Mm-hmm.
The calculation becomes a bit more understandable if you consider personal extinction due to aging versus extinction from AI. Simply, if you think there's a 10% chance AI will eventually kill you and a 20% chance it would cure aging, you have to compare that to the 100% chance of you dying that's expected, and maybe now the math kind of works out. Reason number 6, the belief that advanced AI on net reduces global catastrophic risks via reducing other risks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a slight variation on reason number 5. It's similarly about potential benefits and potential costs. In short, there are many risks that humanity faces: nuclear war, climate change, pandemics, asteroids, supervolcanoes, perhaps something cosmic or who knows what. Then an advanced AI could either help solve or perhaps reduce the level of risk individually or combination of. If one thinks that the risk of an advanced AI harming humanity are outweighed by the benefits the advanced AI could bring, it becomes rational to build it. That's not how the math works out for me, because it seems just as plausible advanced AI makes all of those things worse or more of a risk, but opinions differ, and it could be a reason some people have. And reason number 7, belief that AGI is worth it even if it causes human extinction. The view here is that AGI could be more important than humanity. Advanced AI represents something like the next step in evolution, so it would be human chauvinism to stop it from happening. Maybe an advanced AI could feel more intense happiness or have interesting experiences that we humans ever could, and to deny that would be a bit selfish. We had a good run, sort of thing. In conclusion, this list was not exhaustive, nor did it examine the validity, but just tried to provide some sort of insights into an otherwise odd situation. If people are so concerned, why would they keep doing it? And I found this list helpful to better understand that situation. What are your thoughts?
So I'm not an AI researcher. I play around with this stuff, so my contribution is probably very minor. Maybe it's a nice thing I tell myself. I'm terrified about AI risk. I think there's this high percentage chance that it could destroy humanity or just make our lives miserable. Yet, I still hope for AI to be better. I still hope for super intelligence and all of the benefits. So I'm very conflicted internally because of that. But it's not a rational thought. It's just and I think that may just be how a lot of people feel. You don't accurately weigh the pros and cons of a situation. When you decide to do a thing, you take all sorts of cognitive shortcuts and you make decisions based on rationalizations and your feelings.
I think that's correct. Yeah, it's also very hard to, even if you think it might happen, to viscerally feel what it would be like to create such a thing.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to feel the threat of AI destroying humanity. Even if when I play it out in my mind, that's kind of how it ends, right?
Right. So even though you believe it, it's still hard to feel it, which I think is an interesting situation. And we're all kind of that way with there's currently a risk of nuclear war. Yeah. I think an older generation had drills in the 80s where they're hiding under desks. But for people a little bit younger, they didn't experience that. And there's I guess there's some background risk, but it's still there. It could still happen. And most of us don't perceive this risk appropriately, in my opinion, at all, because it's still there and we don't do as much as we could to reduce it.
The very last point, Darren, seems like a real stretch to me. The idea that this is the next sort of evolution of life. That seems like a hard pill to swallow, that anyone human would be thinking that way.
I understand that because I don't feel that way, but I think you might only need 1% of researchers to think that, and they might be in it because they're really in it to make these things happen. I guess there's enough beliefs on this earth which talk about, a new era coming in where humans are changed, altered, or modified, or who knows what. And some people are also misanthropic. They don't like humans. They think humans have done a lot of bad things, so it's better to just wipe us out. So you could see the positive case, AI is good, it's better than us, just let it happen. Also, it could be not instantaneous where AI kills everyone, but more it's gradual where it phases people out. But there's another one where people think humans are net negative and AIs will just be better. So I'm not saying, again, I don't believe this personally, but I think we should be open to, yes, some people hold these ideas, even if they're not numerous.
Yeah, some people think life is suffering. So if there's less life, there will be less suffering. And
Exactly.
it would be better.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way, but it is a logical conclusion you can come to.
Yeah, antinatalists and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us once again, listener. Cristina told us that it's probably likely that two fingerprints are alike, at least in a way that's not going to make it useful for criminal evidence proceedings. Adam gave us not quite a buttload of information about Buttload, but a sufficient load of butt information. And I explained some reasons why AI researchers might keep building AI, even if they think it's a risk to humanity. Until next time, think better, tack better.
Peace out, cuboids.
Stay classy, not smartasses.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Christina's in the bathroom.
Yes.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @TRC_podcast.